Kia ora and welcome to the HRPI. I'm Marie Tovio, Registered Private Investigator and Employment Relations Specialist. Today's case file, the Privacy Puzzle. What employers in New Zealand need to know about collecting, using, storing and disclosing employee information under the Privacy Act 2020. Now, it's important to note that I'm not going to cover every technical detail of the Privacy Act in this one episode. The Office of the Privacy Commissioner has excellent guidance on their website, and I encourage employers and HR professionals to become familiar with it. Today, I'm only focusing on a few key principles that most often cause problems in real workplaces, and how to avoid turning a simple mistake into a legal or reputational issue. First, it's important to understand what personal information actually means. Under the Privacy Act, personal information is any information about an identifiable individual. In employment, that includes obvious things like employment agreements, payroll information, and medical certificates. But it also includes investigation notes, performance feedback, emails about an employee, and even the handwritten notes that a manager might keep about one of their staff. If the information identifies the person, consider it covered. One of the most important principles is to collect only what you genuinely need. Employers should only collect information that is relevant and necessary for employment purposes, health and safety obligations, or legal compliance. That means avoiding unnecessary collection of sensitive information, and I sometimes see examples where employers do collect or use information without considering their Privacy Act obligations first. For example, employers can research publicly available information about an employee, and they often do, but they then need to be careful about what that information is used for, if they intend to use it at all. Another thing I see at times is an employer thinking it's okay to do an informal background inquiry about an employee that haven't been agreed by the employee or disclosed to them. That's definitely not okay. Equally important is transparency. When you collect personal information, employees should understand why it's being collected, how it will be used, it may be shared with, and how it will be stored. This doesn't require a lengthy explanation every time, but it does require clarity and honesty. Privacy obligations are closely tied to trust, and transparency protects both the employee and the employer. Storage and access controls are another critical area. Many privacy breaches don't happen because someone intended harm, they happen because of haste or carelessness. A payroll spreadsheet sent to the wrong recipient, investigation notes or phone recordings saved in a shared folder with open access, a manager forwarding an email without thinking about who can see it and what's attached. Personal information must be stored securely, and access should be limited to those who have a genuine need to know. Another key principle is purpose limitation. Information collected for one purpose should not be used for another unrelated purpose without a lawful reason or the individual's agreement. For example, medical information collected to support a return to work plan should not later be used to justify unrelated performance action. Using information outside its original purpose can breach privacy obligations and undermine trust. Employees also have the right to request access to their personal information held by their employer. In New Zealand, employers generally must respond to these requests within 20 working days. However, access is not unlimited. There are lawful grounds to withhold or redact certain information, such as where releasing it would breach another person's privacy. These situations require careful handling because employers must balance privacy obligations with their obligations under employment law to act fairly and transparently. This balancing act is especially important during workplace investigations. Employers must provide sufficient information to allow an employee to understand and respond to allegations, for example, but they must also protect personal information that isn't relevant or that belongs to others. Simply refusing to share information because it is considered confidential is not enough, but equally, sharing too much can create its own risks. Privacy breaches are another area where employers need to act quickly and carefully. Under the Privacy Act 2020, if a privacy breach has caused or is likely to cause serious harm, as defined in the Privacy Act, employers must notify both the Office of the Privacy Commissioner and the affected individual or individuals as soon as practicable. Under the Privacy Act, serious harm can include things such as financial harm, emotional distress, blackmail, or intimidation. A common example is accidentally emailing sensitive employee information to the wrong person. The appropriate response includes containing the breach, assessing the level of risk, notifying where required, and reviewing systems and processes to prevent recurrence. Importantly, a privacy breach doesn't always arise from malicious intent. More often, it happens when managers or staff move too quickly, don't understand the rules, or underestimate the sensitivity of the information they're handling. That's why clear policies, secure systems, and proper training are essential. All employers must have a privacy officer too, something I sometimes find employers don't realise. There are also warning signs that employers should particularly treat as potential high-risk situations. These include handling investigation material, managing medical information, responding to access requests, or discovering that personal information has been shared unintentionally. These are the points where pausing and seeking advice can prevent a manageable issue from becoming a formal complaint or even a legal dispute. The key takeaway is this: if information identifies an employee, you have obligations to handle it carefully. Collect only what you need. Be transparent, store it securely, use it appropriately, and act promptly if something goes wrong. Handled properly, privacy obligations don't slow down good management, they strengthen it. They protect your employees, your processes, and your organisation. If you're unsure about how to respond to an information request, manage investigation material, or deal with a potential breach, that's the type of time to seek advice and ensure the right steps are followed. The information in this podcast is provided as a general overview of key employment topics, and it does not replace tailored advice. Every situation is different, and the appropriate steps can vary depending on the specific circumstances. If you're unsure about how to proceed in your workplace, I encourage you to seek advice and support. Feel free to get in touch with me directly. And that brings this case file to a close. A reminder that in HR, protecting information isn't just administrative, it's investigative, preventative, and essential to maintaining trust. Mā te wā.